Okay, guys, we can start now. I started the recording to the cloud. Let me know if you're hearing it. If you heard when the recording went off. Okay, I think I see a light. Can you hear me?
Yes, miss, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, recording has started. Just wanted to present the cover. Here we go now. Let me stop my sharing. You can go ahead and share now. Okay, so good night, everyone. Group 3 will be presenting tonight, their tutorial presentation, their understanding of what units 4 and 5 are about. I ask that you give them your attention and participate as best as possible. Okay, you can take it over now, group 3. Okay, we're not hearing anyone. Group 3.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to another evening. I do hope you enjoy your presentation this evening because it was made with you in mind. And we have a few activities at the end, so have fun. Go ahead, Mesha.
Hello everyone, and good evening to Miss Edwards, the class. Pleasant greetings from Group 3. My name is Jade, and I'm here with my wonderful teammates, Johanna, Relmina, Tamika, Kyle, Mesha, Dana, and Geneva, and we will be conducting the tutorial presentations on Unit 4, Sustainable Environmental Management Practices, and Unit 5, the role of youth advocacy in the area of sustainable development. We hope this will be a satisfactory learning experience for everyone, so we ask for your attention as we get right into it.
Good evening, everybody. So for this evening icebreaker, Uncle Carola embrace sustainable development as illustrated in the image below. So with the writing good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, life below water, and life on land, and climate action. So today we are going to take from the class, you're going to identify which image represents what. So from the chat, image 1, somebody say it represents.
Okay, class, once your mic is operating, please just take the mic. It works out best that way. Just take the mic and participate with group 3. All right.
So image 1 is showing what, class? Anybody want to take the mic? So good health and well-being.
Okay, good night, everyone. Okay.
All right. So take image 2, one side.
Go ahead and take the next one, Lemonisha.
Give me a second, I have to be zooming up. Let me see my phone.
Any takers for number 2?
So number 2 will be life on land.
Yes, you are correct.
It will be
Any takers? Number 3.
life below water.
Okay, you are correct.
Number 4 will be clean water and sanitation.
You are correct. And the last one?
Climate change.
Okay, and you are correct. This brings us to the end of our icebreaker. Now I'll hand over to my other team.
Hi, good day. You've reached Miss Prizzle at the Environmental Safety Unit. How can I be of service?
Hi, my name is Mr. Art Jackson. I'm a factory manager and a part-time youth development practitioner. Just looking for some professional insight on the EMS approach.
Hi, Mr. Jackson, and wow, interesting job combination. Well, you've called at the right place, so let me just get right into it.
Great, thank you. And don't mind if I'm quiet sometimes. I'm just listening and making notes, okay?
Sure, not a problem, that's fine. So, Sustainable Environmental Management Practices, or EMS, is a set of processes and practices that enable an organization to reduce its environmental impacts, meaning protect the environment from degradation and increase its operating efficiency. Now, some firms choose to use existing international standards that are approved and utilized worldwide, but my advice is to tailor the EMS to the specific needs of your organization, since your firm will operate differently from another.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good point. And can you please help me with how to approach formulating an EMS? Would love the advice.
Sure, my pleasure. So it's a 6-step process. First, you have the scope, where you use the goals of the organization,
Miss, may I have a minute? It seems as my internet is acting up right now. Let me try just load up the recording first.
Okay. Okay, so while the recording is being loaded or reloaded, I heard you guys saying EMS. I'm seeing EMP. Are they used interchangeably? Is the same EMP the same as EMS? And the S would stand for what? Systems? Any group member can answer. Hello?
What was that, Miss? Could you repeat that, please? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I heard you saying, I heard one group member saying environmental management, well, saying EMS. I'm seeing EMP. Are they used interchangeably, meaning can they do, when you say EMS, you're referring to the same as EMP, practices versus systems?
Yes, Miss.
All right.
Yes, Miss. Sorry about that.
Is to tailor the EMS to the specific needs of your organization, since your firm will operate differently from another.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good point. And can you please help me with how to approach formulating an EMS? Would love the advice.
Sure, my pleasure. So it's a 6-step process. First, you have the scope, where you use the goals of the organization. Some firms choose to use existing international standards that are approved and utilized worldwide, but my advice is to tailor the EMS to the specific needs of your organization, since your firm will operate differently from another.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good point. And can you please help me with how to approach formulating an EMS? Would love the advice.
Sure, my pleasure. So it's a 6-step process. First, you have the scope, where you use the goals of the organization to see how best to construct your EMS. Then senior management develops environmental policy. Then you move on to the planning stage, where you set your targets and determine like the who, the when, the how. Then staff is trained in awareness and competence, and at this stage you do your documentation as well. You then move on to checking and corrective action, where you measure and monitor. You correct and employ preventative measures to ensure targets are being achieved. And at this stage, you also maintain records and you audit as well. And lastly, management constantly critiques and reviews the EMS to ensure its effectiveness. I mean, it's basically like OHS, but for the environment.
Ah, great comparison. Thanks a lot. And now I see that implementing an EMS is really important for a large factory such as ours, especially since it's always operating.
Most definitely. And as well, an EMS allows for better regulatory compliance, resource usage, business credibility, and more revenue. Especially if you get, say, your ISO certification. And Mr. Jackson, don't forget your main stakeholders like the government, since they lay down laws and regulations, and also your community and environmental interest groups, your customers, and even your competition. They all have a stake.
True. Well, it seems as if our firm really needs to get cracking with our EMS implementation. But, Miss Prizzle, are there any challenges that we should look out for?
Well, unfortunately, yes. As you know, everything has its little challenges, but you'll be fine. I trust that you'll get through it, especially since, you called us for advice. That was a great step. So challenges in EMS implementation could include the possibility of high costs, like for time, resources, expert training. And for a large factory such as yours, it may be burdensome and even a bit overwhelming to implement everything all at once. So my advice is to implement your EMS area by area.
Why, thank you. That's actually a good idea. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, love. And before you go, don't forget also to implement best practices that are supported by management, engage employees, and have clearly defined objectives. And another note is that international standards, government policy, business capacity, and high costs can hinder best practices of EMS. So please design your plan with these in mind, okay?
Yes, sure, will do. Appreciate the reminder, as I know that best practices are techniques that have been shown over time to deliver good results, and that is what we want in our factory. Thanks again, Miss Prizzle. This was simply great info and advice, and it was a nice conversation. Have a great day and be well.
It was my pleasure. You're most welcome, Mr. Jackson. And before I go, let me just say that in addition to Jamaica, countries like Guyana and Tobago have had much success in EMS implementation. So I'll just send you over a little brochure so you can see what you can glean from them. And I really do hope everything goes smoothly for you. Have a great day, okay? Bye.
Thanks again, Miss Prizzle, and you too. Could you please transfer my call to the Youth Development Unit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Please hold for transfer.
We know your time is valuable. Thank
We're now going to head into our question and answer session, and this will be conducted by Joanna and Dana.
Okay, so before the question and answer, I have a question. The client was advised to about an ISO certification. What is that? Oh, you have it in your question. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, miss, we have them.
It just goes to show that I'm listening and I'm taking my own notes and okay, all right, so you're going to clear that up. Okay, go ahead, guys.
So good night again, everyone. So first question, what system is referred to as EMS? If anyone would like to answer.
Emergency management system.
Environment. Right?
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Next one, what is the purpose of the environmental management system?
Come on, guys, the questions are relatively easy. Come on. Go ahead and put in the answer, Maisha, because I don't see much of anyone answering.
Sorry, I was answering. I thought my mic was on. To ensure that the standards set for different products in the manufacturing or services and other goods are of a high quality and it's standardized across countries and continents. So they have those international standards, those that can be used across the board, and people can make it, or companies can make it specific to their organization based on their needs. But there is the environmental component where they have to consider the environmental impact of the entire production process.
Great, great. Next one, what does the acronym IOS stands for? An next person.
There's a typo error, guys. It's not ISO, it's IOS. So Joanna said IOS, so it's correct. So just go ahead, guys. Come on now.
International Organization for Standardization.
Good. So the next one is true or false. So it will be relatively easier. right, than any explanation, right?
Just a little pause, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the International Organization for Standardization. What's the purpose for that? I remember the client was advised to get certification in it. What is the purpose of getting certification in that area?
Miss, this would mean that your organization would have put in the policies and implemented at a particular standards of operating at an international level. So you meet the criteria set out by the International Organization for Standardization. So you're operating at that level. And you need to have your organization receive the, oh Lord, the certification as proof as that you're operating at that level.
So who does this certification? Is it an organization that visits the business, or what happens? How is that certification obtained?
I believe the certification is obtained by after you have implemented these policies, an assessment is done by a regulator. So a regulator who will come to ensure that the standards are being upheld will come and grant the certification that you are compliant to these standards.
Okay, all right. You can continue now.
So true or false?
True.
The iOS uses a comprehensive approach to address the requirements of NFOs, government and consumers and businesses. I think I hear an answer. True? Yes, the answer is true.
Please remind us, what is NFO?
Non-government organization.
You sure about that? That would be NGO. You have NFO here. Or is it an error or something?
I'm sorry, yes, it would have been an error on our end.
Because NGOs are non-government organization. They're usually they don't operate on profits and such. All right, continue, guys.
So the I is the next true or false, right? The iOS is supposed to be iOS. I-14001 standard was developed in the year 1997. Is that true or false?
True.
Right. So how many stages in the call?
Oh, the answer is actually false. The correct answer is 1996.
Just now, eh?
So before we move on to number 6, the correct answer is 1996.
Who developed this standard, or where was it developed? You can answer based on any of those two questions. Where was it developed, or who developed it in this 1996?
It's the same International Organization for Standardization, Miss, that develop those standards, I believe.
Where are they based?
Don't think I got that one.
Okay, all right. So what, is it a Caribbean initiative thing? Is it a Caribbean thing or is it a worldwide thing?
Well, in my reading, I would believe that it would be worldwide because they're moving towards sustainable development on a worldwide level, not just within the Caribbean. That's my thoughts.
Right. And it would have said international, so I believe it's a worldwide thing.
Okay, all right, continue.
How many stages are in the EMS? A, 5, B, 6, or C, 7?
That would be B.
Correct. B is correct. 6 is the correct answer.
Right, you guys mentioned 6-step process. The question asks us stages, so I guess it means the same thing.
Yes, Miss, it does.
Yes, it would have been this. Yes.
All right, continue.
What are the first and the last stages in the EMS? A, scope and management review, or B, management and scope review? Management review and
Scope and
scope.
management review.
That's correct. How many key areas are used to categorize the benefits and limitations of the EMS?
Hold on for me. Let's go back to number 7. Which stage will take on the measurement, documentation and measurement? Anybody?
Would that be implementation and operation, Miss?
I was listening and taking notes, and I remember you saying documentation and measurement. But while I was writing, I realized I had 8 things jotted down, even though you have 6 steps. So I was just wondering which stage documentation.
So that would be step 5, check-in and corrective action.
Step 5. All right. Great.
Okay.
Okay, you can continue now.
Number 8 is C.
How many key areas are used to categorize the benefits and limitations of EMSs? So is it 9, 8, or 7? How many key areas are used to categorize the benefits and limitations of EMSs?
It is 7.
Let's see if you're correct.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
You are correct.
That's time commitment.
Great job, guys. You're doing good so far.
Could you just remind us of the key areas, as long as they're not too long? Just go back. What are these 7 key areas again?
Take it off.
Who's that?
Environment.
Okay, so the key areas would be environmental performance, compliance awareness, economic performance, trade opportunities, changes in environmental attitudes and environmental awareness, risk and liability control, and the last one would be time commitments. Time commitments.
All right, okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Dana, take the next few.
All right, so the next question, true or false, there are 4 important stakeholders that positively impact an organization's decision regarding environmental management practices. True or false?
True.
All right, let's see if you're correct. Yes, true is the correct answer. Next question. Name 2 important stakeholders that positively impact an organization's
Hello?
decision.
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
What are these four important stakeholders again?
You have the
Um,
government,
Government,
customer and competition, community and environment interest groups like as we said, some of the advocates, and also the industry itself.
Okay, all right, number 10.
Name two important stakeholders that positively impact an organization's decision regarding environmental management practices. So we just named them out.
Yeah.
You can just reiterate. So we would have mentioned governments already, customer and competition, and
Community and environment and industry.
right, community and environment and industry. Correct.
Mhm.
All right, number 11, according to Unit 4, what does the term best practice implies? And you can say this in your own words. Anybody? Best practices or best practice?
Techniques and practices that have something like a successful outcome.
Right. Thank you very much for that. That definition will definitely work. All right. So best practice usually means methods, techniques, and practices that have delivered successful results over time. And okay, number 12, name any three successful characteristics of EMS. Any three successful characteristics.
that would be engaged employees, strong management support, and commitment of resources.
That is correct.
Before you move on, flip back over to the slide for me. Okay, question, can you mention name two important stakeholders? You have what, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, you have listed.
Yes, those could have been any of the possible answers.
Okay, because you made it sound as if there are just two important stakeholders. Okay.
No.
All right.
So there are more than one answers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, so we answered number 12 already. Next question will be number 13. It says, name any three benefits for a good developed and implemented EMS.
So you can get enhanced efficiency with lower cost, employees' involvement, and improved relations and customers.
Thank you very much for that.
With
That is
customers.
correct. All right. All right, next question, number 14. All right, so based on what we're seeing here, these could have been any of the possible answers. Moving on to number 14. Name one factor that can hinder best practices used in EMS. Name one factor that can hinder best practices used in EMS.
International standards.
All right, so I heard government policy and international standards. Those two answers are indeed correct. And on to our last and final question. Name any two areas of EMS that can benefit Caribbean countries. Name any two areas of EMS that can benefit Caribbean countries.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Tourism or agriculture.
Okay, so I heard tourism and agriculture. Yes, those answers are correct. And as you can see, we have several answers showing here: manufacturing, energy, tourism, agriculture, and mining. Thank you very much for your participation, guys. You did very well.
Okay, we have questions now. Question 4. Turn off your mic. The dog barking. Person with the dog, right? Okay, number 14. Name one factor that hinder best practices used. International standard. How is that a factor? How does that hinder best practices? Explain to us.
Miss, my understanding of this is that, get my thoughts together, as it relates to international standards, it can hinder best practices because there are many countries who are not at the same place as the others. So they would want to implement an EMS, but they're lacking in some areas. And because of what the international standards has placed down on them that they have to get, then that could hinder them from developing the EMS.
Okay, they might lack certain resources. Okay.
Yes, miss.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a good answer. What about government policy?
well, Miss, different governments will have different policies regarding the practices with EMS, right? So different countries will have different policies according to what the government goes along with. That will be able to protect the environment. So that's basically what I understand by it.
Okay, very good. The high cost of implementation, how is that a factor?
Miss, you have a lot of organizations that are not, especially in the developing countries, they do not have the finance to put together a properly developed EMS. And it costs. It costs a lot because you have to put in the resources, the labor, and everybody into it in order for it to be effective. So a lot of companies might not have the financial resource, should say, in order to fully implement the strategy.
And what do you think these companies can do in order to help with this high cost?
A lot of them,
Probably do some outsourcing, possibly.
yeah.
Outsourcing, and what else?
Sell shares.
Well, I suppose, yeah, seek sponsorship. Remember, we dealt with sponsoring donors in the past, because we can never do it on our own. We're going to need donors, sponsors.
That's true, miss.
All right. Explain to the capacity with countries. How does that factor in?
I believe that has to do with the population.
In what sense? The population, overpopulated, underpopulated. What do you mean?
Well, the practices, well, I would say the techniques or the methods that would have to be put in place, it have to be according to how much basically the population within the country, right? So
Oh, sorry. Also, Miss, I believe in terms of capacity, whether or not the country have persons with those skills or expertise or the technocrats, sometimes the country will have to import these persons with the skills and pay them at the salaries at a rate that is at an international standard, and such it comes to the resources of the country, whether or not they can afford these technocrats.
Okay, very good. Let's look at 15 now. Name 2 areas of aid that can benefit countries. Let's talk about the tourism part of it. What do you mean? How does tourism benefit?
Well, tourism is a major, as we all know, one of the major financial strongholds as it relates to Caribbean islands because of what we can offer. And so because of that, tourism can really help to enable the EMS to in benefiting the Caribbean countries, in that it will have the standards put out so that everyone within the Caribbean or internationally would have a set of standards how to deal with tourists and tourism. I don't know if I made any sense.
Also, to add to Tamika is also tourism is much more profitable, and based on the fact that we are in the Caribbean, our tourism is our natural pearl, our gold. We don't have to do much with it because our countries are places where persons want to come, especially during the summer holidays. So what we can do is implement and operate at a standard, an international standard, to allow more persons to come in and drive in a higher level of revenue so that it can sustain itself over a period of time, and also help to run the country and implement other EMS in other areas. Rather than when you are producing and outsourcing, you are spending at a higher rate than what you would have done naturally with tourism. I believe that would benefit our Caribbean countries much better.
Okay, very good. Anybody want to explain another area, like the mining part of it? Because mining probably is not so prevalent. But go ahead and explain to us the mining, or you can take on manufacturing or energy.
Although mining is not so prevalent, Miss, I do believe we need an EMS for mining, because a lot of the persons, they do not operate at the standard that they should operate at. So in putting in an EMS for mining, then you'd have everyone conducting their waste management properly. They'll be dealing with their I think fossil fuels and all of that, all of their waste and everything would be done in a better manner than it is being done now if we have an EMS for mining.
Okay, very good. All right, if you want to, you can go ahead and explain the manufacturing part of it. And when you say manufacturing, you're referring to import, export, what aspect of it that you're referring to?
I would want to glean more towards both import and export, Miss, because we have in implementing an EMS for manufacturing, which would best suit the Caribbean, is where we would have standardization as it relates to what we produce against what we can import and export. So they would set up an EMS to factor in exporting more of our products and importing less, because we have a lot here in the Caribbean and a lot of persons are not being used up to their full potential, right? And so in manufacturing now, in order to have a steady flow of import and export, so that you don't intend to import more than you can export because the country is going to lose. So you have to form an EMS now where when you export more and import less, where it can benefit the country.
Very good. That's a very good response. All right. Anyone else want to speak on anything? Group 3, I believe your presentation has ended. Can move on to your end slide. Anybody would like to add anything? All right. A very good point was made about manufacturing. It's in the Caribbean. We have different persons representing different countries. Tell us I know for Jamaica, tourism is our main industry for what we call it, export, even though tourists come to us, but that is our main industry. What is it like in other Caribbean countries? Is it agriculture, exporting potatoes? What helps other countries? Let me see how well you know your country. What you export more, what your country depends on more to help with the development. Anybody can take the mic at this point. I have 10 of you. Anyone can take the mic. Someone, I think, let me niche.
Well, for Trinidad,
Hi.
okay.
Well, what do you want to go? Okay, I just wanted to add, good night, everyone. I just wanted to add that one of our disadvantage as Caribbean nations is the fact that we're not able to manufacture in mass, and that's what the developing countries have over us. And so they will buy our produce, and we will be forced to buy to sell it at a cheaper cost, and they will get the benefit from it. That's one point I want to make. The other point is that oh my God, I had lost my train of thought. I'll get back to you on the next part. Oh my God, I'm distracted.
Miss,
Yes, go ahead.
just one thing. We haven't done unit 5 as yet. That was just unit 4.
That was okay. I thought that. All right, let's continue on. I just want to tell a small discussion. Okay, continue.
We know your time is valuable. Thank you for holding. Someone will be with you as soon as possible.
Hello, my name is Miss Nichols. You've reached the Youth Development Unit. How can I help you on this fine day?
Hi there, Miss Nichols. My name is Mr. Jackson. I'm a part-time youth development practitioner who would like to discuss the role of youth advocacy in sustainable development. Would you mind sharing some of your professional insight with me?
I'd be glad to, no problem.
Perfect. Thank you, Miss Nichols. So I'll be listening and making notes, okay? So don't mind if I'm a bit quiet at times.
Sure, not a problem, Mr. Jackson. So, young people can raise awareness about sustainable development, and particularly among their peers. You know, they usually relate to their friends and other people in their age group a bit better. And as you also know, since you are a youth development professional, youth are experts in their own right and can be great change agents.
Yes, that is very true, and youth are key stakeholders in facilitating social transformation.
Right, exactly. And advocacy itself is speaking on behalf of someone or something without your personal feelings or opinions affecting your stance. And with advocacy, you have to target societal systems that actually have the power to effect change. See where I'm coming from?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Ms. Nichols, because advocacy helps to both make and change policies and their enforcement, and even revives dormant ones that may not be in operation but are necessary for advocacy.
Right, exactly. And I'm so glad you know your stuff. Happy to see that. And as well, please note, Mr. Jackson, there are 3 types of advocacy, which is either for yourself or a third party, also known as case or individual, or possibly to protect the rights and interests of the public, or say a category of people like women, workers, and so on. And that's known as cause or public.
Oh, I see. Thanks for letting me know and for clarifying that. So, can you also tell me about a model called the Advocacy for People's Power, or APP model? I know it aims to empower the marginalized and disenfranchised, but please tell me a bit more.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure. So the 3 key impacts of the APP model are policy, systemic, and democratic change. So you're basically fostering a strong civil society and helping youth to come up with coping strategies.
Ah, I see. I can relate to that. And I know as well that the rights-based approach addresses problems in the field of development through advocacy.
Correct. And actually, you know, the charity model and the needs-based approach actually preceded the APP, and are still somewhat relevant, but I'll focus on the rights-based since it's most widespread. And the APP treats development as a set of human rights which must be fulfilled. It promotes values like accountability, social justice through non-discrimination and equality, and the participation of the poor in decision making, which, is very important.
Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even though there may be issues with balancing the scales in decision making, like if this group wants that and the other group wants that, with fresh young minds at the helm, I think we can overcome.
Wow, great perspective, Mr. Jackson. And with your explanation, that presents a great opportunity as well for youth participation. I'd also like to give you some information on how youth can be involved in advocacy and raising environmental awareness. So to achieve this goal, it's necessary to empower young people with the necessary skills and competencies to make them capable of actively creating a sustainable future together, as I'm sure you know, Mr. Jackson. And they should be involved in aspects like leadership, peer education, and so on.
Right. They really need to participate and have their voices heard.
Yes, and to achieve this goal, education is necessary, whether formal or informal. So whether through an established school or even self-study, on-the-job training, education is key, especially when it comes on to youth addressing issues like HIV and AIDS, and just human rights in general.
So true. And last week I was watching a program which suggested that global education is a good step too, as it will allow youth to see the existing realities worldwide and the various threats to our environment, so they can in turn make better choices as it relates to environmental preservation.
Right you are. And also, this actually proves how the media, especially social media, is important in bringing environmental issues to the forefront so that youth can advocate for solutions alongside youth organizations.
Exactly, you're right, Ms. Nichols. And I also believe that policymakers need to be under just a bit more pressure to adopt better sustainable environmental practices. As the program I was watching was also sharing that organizations like the European Youth Forum, EC Development Corporation, and so on have been very instrumental in this.
Yes, very true, Mr. Jackson. I really like how you're keeping abreast of current trends. Great attribute to have as a youth development practitioner. And just to wrap up real quickly, I'll just briefly touch on developing an advocacy strategy. As you know, it's very essential to this process. There are 7 really in-depth steps, so I'll send you another brochure and that will give you the details. But what I will share with you now is that in developing your strategy, you want to ensure that it is SMART, as in the acronym SMART. And I'm sure you know what that entails since you are in the youth development field. So an advocacy strategy will allow you to address the causes as well as the symptoms of poverty, inequality, and marginalization. Because remember, we want to uplift the poor and the marginalized so they can realize their rights. And lastly, don't forget that one of the most important things to do is your stakeholder analysis, as you will want to know who and or what has influence over the young people, so you can identify possible partners and even those who might oppose your cause, because you don't want to ever be blindsided, okay?
Very sound advice, Miss Nichols. I appreciate all your insight. You've been such a great help. I will email you for that brochure. And thanks again. Really great convo. Stay safe.
It was my pleasure, Mr. Jackson. No problem. And thank you for calling as well. We appreciate your faith in our professional insight. Reach out anytime, okay? Bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you guys for your indulgence so far. I know it's a small amount of us, but we're going to a final section for this afternoon, sorry. And it's a case study. Go ahead and pull up the case study, Misha. All right. So we want to just take another just 5 minutes of your time, and we're asking for everyone's participation. We're going to do a case study, and think about, while I'm reading, how you're going to develop an advocacy strategy for this case. So we're not going to take long. So if it's going to take long, we're going to be the ones also to put some pointers out there. All right, group? So the community of Dunshire, with a population of 3,988, has been without running water for over 40 years. There used to be a spring where the residents would go to wash and catch water for their homes. However, 10 years ago, the Overview Water Company bought the land that the spring is on. The company supplied the area with two 10,000-gallon tanks. The company would truck water to the area whenever there is not enough rainfall to supply the community. This continued for over 6 years. During this time, the CEO died and his son took over the company. The water truck stopped coming into the community on a regular basis, and whenever it doesn't rain, the residents have to find other alternatives to source water for themselves and their families. They have written numerous letters to the Overview Water Company, which seems to have fallen on deaf ears. So a member of the community who knows you well approached you and asked for your help. Next slide, please. You were born in the community and have a first-hand knowledge of the situation. You are now a youth development officer working with the Ministry of Environment and Planning in your country. You brought the issue to your supervisor at a staff meeting, sorry. You all decided to advocate on behalf of the residents of Dunshire for the National Water Commission to place water in the community. Next slide, Misha. Misha? Misha got bumped out or something. All right, so first of all, I want you to think about what type of advocacy would be best suited for the situation here. Would it be self-advocacy, cause advocacy, or case advocacy? Wow. Anyone? I give you reasons for it. Why would you say cause?
Because the whole idea of cause advocacy is lobbying for a cause. And if the residents in the area haven't have a proper running water system, it is based on a cause rather than individual or case.
Very good. That is a very good answer. All right. So do you think the people's power, the advocacy for people's power model is applicable in this situation? And if so, how would this impact the case? The advocacy for the people's power model. Do you think it's applicable to this situation? And if so, how would it impact the case? Anyone? Anyone? You hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you, but we don't
Okay.
know what the people's power model entails.
You don't know what the people's power model entails?
You know, that mentioned it in your presentation.
Yes, we did.
Serious?
It's aimed at empowering the marginalized and the disenfranchised. It was there.
Okay.
So yes, it would. All right. So yes, it would, as it would empower the residents to be able to advocate for themselves when they have future issues. So the people's power model is actually to give the people the power to take yourself out of this scene then and allow them to know how best to advocate for themselves. Understand? Getting that?
Yeah, but how do they do that?
You could do it through either a systematic change or policy change, coming together to lobby for not really policy, but a systematic change, right? So
yes,
this is citizens coming together to share their accountability, holding it certain government or whosoever is in charge of this water system in liable for whatever issue that they are going to, because as the sustainable development goals are that water and basic necessities supposed to be part of the country global goal.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
So in essence, they're representing themselves, they're representing the community, representing their side of the world. That's what you're saying?
That would be what the Advocacy for People's Forum model would do for them, would allow them to do for themselves. Yes, miss.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so next quick question. What are the major steps in developing an advocacy plan? We all know this, come on. I can't see the chat, so if anyone's typing in there, I can't see because I'm sharing the screen.
Is it the democratic, the systematic, and the policy change?
Pardon me?
Is it the democratic, systematic, and the policy?
No, there were 7 steps in developing an advocacy plan. In the final part of the unit, there were 7 steps. First one was contextualizing your development effectiveness. Remember that? Next one was identify the changes you want to make. That was number 2. Number 3, being aware of influential persons. And number 4, forming alliances. Anyone want to give me 5, 6, and 7?
Okay, number 5 is actually making your case. Step 6 is conveying your message clearly. And step 7 is consolidating your plan and tracking its progress.
All right, very good. All right, so quickly now, the next 2 minutes, using the steps indicated above, that's the 7 steps that we just went through. Develop an advocacy strategy for the residents of Dunshire. So first, contextualize your development effectiveness. What are you going to do in this area? Hello? All right, so you're going to look at the issue that the community is facing. And the issue is their water problem. They're not having access to running water, right? So the community is hampered because of lack of access to running water. So that is their issue. What about identifying the changes you want to make? And this entails developing a goal and objective for your plan. Any takers?
They would have to figure out how to regularize water into the community. So maybe installation of pipes, a dam, tanks, etc.
All right, very good. Anyone else? What would be one of your objectives though? Think about an objective that you could put in the plan. Anyone?
Okay, one of the objectives I think would be to form a
It could
committee
probably be
first.
to liaison with certain organizations to get or to reach the goal that you're trying to reach.
Very good. Someone else was talking?
Yeah, I was saying that we could form a committee of stakeholders who we could use their expertise to lobby and advocate on what strategies to use to implement our action plan.
Very good. All right, so being aware of influential persons and developing alliances. Now, this is where we take in a stakeholder analysis. So who are the stakeholders in this case? Who are the stakeholders that we'll be working with, or who are the persons that might not want the plan to go through? Anyone?
The agency.
Which agency?
The water.
And the water company, very good. And also the National Water Commission as well, because they might think that this is too costly, don't it? And they don't have the resources to put in pipes and so on in the community at this point. So they can be either to or for the case. Next one, making your case. So how would you make your case now?
You would start writing a proposal.
Thank you, Miss. So now you're going to start meeting with the committee that you have formed that someone said earlier, right? You're going to meet with that committee now and you start putting your proposal together in order to go out there now to find those persons who you want to come on board, right? And conveying your message, Anyone? That one is easy. That one is easy, conveying your message. So your message can be conveyed through any medium at this point. You can write a letter to the overview company, letting them know that you'll be advocating on behalf of the residents, we're advocating for them to come on board in helping with the water in the community. Also want to water commission as well. And then now for the final step, everybody knows the final step. So we're at the final lap now, where you consolidate your plan and track its progress. And this is where you do what?
Before you move on to that step,
Yes, miss.
the previous step, you would involve the media. Will they be of any help? Involve the media, letting them know what the problem is in the community, to see how effective they can be in order to advocate. Because you know, when it's out in the media, word gets around. And
that is true, miss. That is so true. Thank you for that idea. I wasn't even thinking along that lines, but yes, because I do see that happening a lot in Jamaica. Anytime Jamaicans want anything, they call CVM and they call TVJ, and they go out and they put it out there in person as well. I wouldn't really say protesting in a way, but yes, get them on board as well and let them see the plight of what the residents are going through. Because as Miss said, a lot of times that helps.
yeah, it does. Okay.
And then consolidating your plan now and tracking its progress. Last one.
So this is where we develop the action plan, right? Then we monitor it and evaluate it. That is why we'll be tracking its progress. So during the monitoring stage, we will monitor, see how we going, what is needed in this step and whatever. And afterwards, maybe some time will go along and we will evaluate if it was helpful or whatever it is.
Very good. Anyone else want to add anything else? Well, that is it for us. And as you know, as it relates to advocacy messages, you want to ensure that you put, it's not a long message. You need to put in there what you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, how you propose to achieve it, and what specific action you want the audience to take. So.
Okay, so
that's it.
The people for this community now, what is it exactly that they want to achieve? Because based on what I remember from the study, I would say the person, the CEO for the water company that was supplying them with water died. His son took over, and I guess poor management took place. So what is it specifically that they want? They just want to go back to the original stage that they were, just getting water trucked to their community. What is it that they're hoping to achieve?
As a final part of the case study said, they wanted it to be more frequent now. So they know moving on to the National Water Commission, and also where the company can also help them to have running water in their homes, rather than them have to be relying on whenever rain falls or whenever the company feels the need to truck water.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I was listening for.
Okay, miss.
Thank you.
All right, so we're wrapping up, just a minute and then we're done.
Hello, everyone. It's Jade again. So,
We're not hearing, okay? We're not hearing anything.
Oh, sorry.
Tamisa, reshare and click optimize zone.
Reshare. Go back to slideshow.
No, pause sharing or stop sharing and reshare and click the sound at the bottom, or else we'll not hear. So stop the sharing. Up here, no, go up to your control. The control at the top or the bottom. No, not on the page, or your control, your Zoom control.
Sorry.
Then you see stop sharing.
I wasn't in the Zoom section. Sorry about that.
Yeah, man.
All right, so stop sharing.
Yeah, reshare, and when you share with zone.
Okay, great, awesome. Thank you. All right. Hearing?
Hello everyone, it's Jade again.
Yes, we're hearing. Click on
So, in
slideshow now.
These thoughts. EMS is necessary to protect the environment from degradation as well as thoughts. EMS is necessary to protect the environment from degradation as well as improve operating efficiency. It is a 6-step process which needs constant monitoring and evaluation. Also remember to consider your stakeholders and always employ best practices in EMS implementation. Youth advocacy plays an extremely important role in sustainable development. As youth development practitioners, we must remember that the advocacy process is objective, not subjective, and can change laws and policies in a marked way. Never themselves are key stakeholders in effecting social transformation. The APP model helps foster a strong civil society and aids youth in devising necessary coping mechanisms. The rights-based approach promotes accountability and equality. The voices of youth also need to be heard, so utilizing the media as far as possible will help realize that aim. Education leads to empowerment, which is one of the main ingredients in sustainable development. And lastly, developing a smart advocacy strategy is important for success, and conducting a thorough stakeholder analysis will help negate opposition as much as possible. Thanks for listening and for your participation. Walk good.
Thank you everyone for giving us the time. We appreciate it. Thank you, Miss. We are finished.
Okay, you're welcome, guys. Very good presentation. Keeps getting better. Okay, rest of the class. Any questions for group 3 members? Do you have any questions? Or you want to share something that you probably just learned? Group 3, open up your eyes to. Anyone? No one? Okay, all right. I guess we can end on this note. I hope you guys have been working on your individual assignment, which is due on November 6th. The boxes will be available. Well, Dropbox will be available on the weekend, but the Dropbox shouldn't hinder you from having start the assignment. I've been working on your assignments. Any questions? No questions? All right. Thank you so much, group 2. Very good presentation. I'm sure we have left, or we we understand clearly what units 4 and 5 are about, which is our last unit for our, we should have done for our journal writing. Okay, with that, guys, we can close off. Any housekeeping matters that anyone needs to discuss? Okay, all right, so that's it, guys. Our next presentation will be by group 4 on unit 6 and 7. That will be November 10th. Okay, guys, take care and have a good, wonderful night. Thank you very much, group 3. Very impressive. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss. You're welcome. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Good night.